preparatory meeting in October. Those of you who might be interested in either this or the actual technical workshop, please come talk to me. But the idea is trying to mainstream PBA work into the discussions of the UNFCCC parties. Our partnership in the Mountain Program has an EBA side event planned at the CBD COP in Hyderabad, as well as the UNFCCC COP in Doha. As already mentioned by several speakers, this EBA work is something that very much works along both sides of and across the boundaries between these two conventions. And so it's very important that we recognize those multiple wins when we do EBA work. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Steve, for that. I strongly recommend looking at that EBA guidance document. It's a very useful source of information if you're interested in EBA and moving those kind of projects forwards. I'd like to welcome now Alejandro Argumedo from the Association for Nature and Sustainable Development, who will be talking about biocultural system-based adaptation, the Potato Park, and the Indigenous Peoples Climate Change Assessment. Having said, I would like to welcome him.
Should we move on to YouTube first?
So instead what we'll do is we'll go and welcome Yiqing Song from the Center for Agricultural Policy, who'll be talking about using traditional knowledge, land races and participatory plant breeding for adaptation in southwestern China. Yiqing, thank you. We have another very slight technical issue, so we sing to yourselves for 30 seconds or so.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very glad to bring a case from southwest part of China to share with you some field challenges, effort, and evidence, and we brought in the past more than 10 years. Okay, the blue part here is the southwest part of China, including 3 provinces, Guangxi, Yunnan, and Guizhou. And here is the most rich with the ethnic group cultures and the biodiversity in China. And now the farming there now is quite dominated by the poor and women in the remote mountain areas. And our work started there in 2000, and so our evidence are based on 12 years PPP action research in that 3 provinces. We start with 1 province, start with 6 villages, and now expanded to more than 20 villages in 3 provinces. Okay, this is what we catch up when we started in 2000. Actually, it's just give us some idea that what are our key problems to start our PPP action. This is what we discussed with our team 12 years ago, that at that time the formal system is very dominant in terms of breeding, in terms of extension and all this. And the formal systems are functioning and working there, but marginalized. Nowadays, the formal system is reforming and changing, but it's still very dominant in breeding and also in extension, in recent years in climate change adaptation also. But with some more market reforming and market force. This is more complex. I won't go into that in detail. So, going to the farmer traditional knowledge systems, it's what is there and functioning all the time there. And we work closely with these farmer traditional knowledge systems and trying to link these 2 systems. These are our major goals for the PPP action. Okay, so the major perspectives guided our PPP action is that we consider that the traditional knowledge systems and scientific knowledge systems have have the complementary functions, and they can complementary towards each other through collaboration. And we try to link these two knowledge systems in adaptation. It's not easy, but we try through participant reading and other efforts. And our effort, because our entry point is participant reading, so our focus is the role of traditional knowledge in seed. Actually, we consider seed as the core part of the traditional knowledge systems, seed as a continuity and of the livelihood and continue through the process and in the whole ecosystems as a whole and in the whole process in adaptation. That's our major focus and perspective. Okay, based on our surveys in 2009 and 10, our farmers really feel the changes, the climate changes, and that is increasing temperature, the big drought, the extreme weather, which is quite obvious recently in China. We should say that in recent years in China, the southwest part of China is the most, is the areas experiencing the most changes in climate changes and some natural disasters in China. You still remember the big drought in 2010 and some natural disaster, earthquake a few years ago and the recent year, also this year. Another big challenge is erosion of biodiversity and losing of land resources. And in terms of the land resources, mainly the maize and the rice, which are the staple food for the mountain, for the farmers in mountain areas. So here you can see that this is the growing areas of the three crops, soybean, rice, and maize. So in terms of maize, in more than 20 years ago, the covering areas of land resources is 69%. And now come to, in 2008, is 25. Rice is 46% at that time, now also become 25. This is in mountain areas because our sample villages, 20 villages, are all from the mountain areas. In the flat areas, the covering area of land resources is much less than this. Okay, for the formal systems, it's lucky that we involve them in the very beginning of the PPP, and they start to realize that biodiversity creation in field and in breeding become one of the biggest constraints for the national breeding systems. Like they mentioned about the genetical base narrowing and losing of biodiversity in field could be the biggest constraint affecting the breeding, breeding goals for productivity increase now and in the future. For example, for maize, the recent few years increase of yield is become flattening. Rice is a little bit better, wheat is better. Wheat, but compared with these three, wheat have much broader genetical base than the other two crops. So they started to consider PPP as a kind of alternative for genetical conservation, for biodiversity conservation and genetical base broadening through pre-breeding and through in-field conservation and through some field tests together with the farmers. So we're working with them, with the National Institute of Crop Research, with the three provinces research institute in the past few years and exploring in this. And more importantly, some of the policy makers realize that given the diversifications in China, multiple model of agriculture is needed in China. Okay, so this is a knowledge exchange and linkage we started in 2000s. This is a formal breeding focus. This is farmers breeding focus. So they focus on different aspects and have some interactions. We start with some tools like genetic resource registers and TK, and also local genetic resource and TK utilization and value adding. And these are the PPP field evidence. We have read out 6 main PPP varieties, and they are work well in adaptation to the extreme weather in terms of drought and pest, something like that. And more importantly, farmer like them because they can self-rely on to those seeds to avoid seed risk and insecurity. We also do community-based seed production since 2006, and after that, farmers carry on by themselves in different communities. One of the evidence from the field is that one of the farmer improved PPP languages survived the big spring drought in southwest China in 2010. This is evidence provided by breeders. So breeders after that start working with farmers for select the drought-resistant lines from the languages. We're also trying to get some scientific evidence to show that the genetic languages are important, and farmers have a traditional knowledge, and farmers have a crucial role to play in breeding and in increase the productivity and in adaptation in the future. So those are the result of the first scientific analysis of 170 languages. Okay, we also start to do a right-based tour, trying to exploring some tours for fair access and benefit sharing through PIC agreement. This is what we have done in 2010. Between 12 villages and 2 formal institutes, one on rice research, another on maize research. And after that, they have some sub-agreement to go between these 12 villages and the institute. This works well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Chip. It looks like our other presenter has been predisposed. Now, in the end, it's a real shame that we can't hear from him, but it does mean we're running a little bit behind schedule anyway, so what we can do is now allocate a little bit more time to the third session of this workshop, which is basically about tapping your brains and your experience in terms of EBA. So what we want to try and do is understand from you what are the key evidence gaps in EBA related to science, related to policy, related to institutions and finance, and related to traditional knowledge. Now, in a room of this size with this many people, there is a huge amount of wisdom, I'm sure, in this. So what we're going to do is we're going to split into groups, one in each corner of the room. I'm going to ask each of the 4, now the 3 expert panelists, to go to the corner of the room based on what your interest is. So what we're going to do is we're going to have James, who will be leading the science discussion in this corner here. So if you're interested in science, the evidence-based needs for EBA in terms of science, then please come here. If you're interested in policy, then please go to Keith, who will be in that corner over there. If you're interested in traditional knowledge, then Christine will be down in the back corner. And if you're interested in institutions and finance, then Valerie, who's a very fine colleague of mine, will be in the corner down there on the far side. So if you can just move there when you can. We have about 15 minutes, that's all. Those guys are going to facilitate a discussion so that we can try and get as much information from you as possible. They'll then come back into plenary after about 15 minutes and summarise the discussions that you've had and the evidence gaps that you've found. And we'll have to lock the doors to prevent anyone leaving.
Science over here.
So science in this corner where I am. We have policy in the far corner with Keith over here. Institutions with Valerie in the corner over there. And we have traditional knowledge with Christina in the back corner over there.
Evidence-based science. Come on. So, yes, science. That's all right. Do you want us to make a circle? Let's grab these seats and face each other. Are you coming here? Excellent. Good one. Thank you. Let's turn this around.
I have to warn I've got to leave in about 10 minutes because I'm on duty. Brilliant.
You have a seat? Honest, middle. Here you go. So let's go very quickly round the circle so we know each other. So James Watson, I lead climate change work for the Wildlife Conservation Society.
Cooperation agency, also
Wendy Fagan from IUCN Global Species Program based in Cambridge.
My name is Zheng Wang and come from Fudan University in Shanghai, China.
Brigitte Poulin from
Okay. It's a great mix.
I just want to apologise in advance. I'm going to have to leave in about 10 minutes. I've got to. Yeah.
somebody is here.
Yeah. Very good.
What is your name?
Prashant.
So David's asked me to facilitate a discussion on the evidence gaps in science and EBA. And so what I was going to do is pull together some of these. What do you think the key gaps are in science? Are there themes? Is it ecosystems? Is it particular regions? So I've got my own theories of this, but I want to open out more. So what do you think?
Teams are very good, but I think there should be an effective tool for getting into what are the practices which are required for putting traditional knowledge base into practice. What are the tools for that?
And so that's a gap. So the gap is there is no.
There's all the year I've seen that there is very good presentations, but what are the tools actually to get into monitoring part, evaluation part of EBA?
Just direct reaction to what you're commenting, and then also you guys have noticed.
Yep.
We're actually, precisely because of the lack of tools on how to really engage with communities and see what their perspectives are, and also the technical indigenous knowledge, develop projects. We're actually working with the IDS based on developing tools for vulnerability assessment at the community level. So that's kind of a first step onto those types of tools, which are very much needed to parks managers and people who like engaging communities usually have no idea about sort of participatory techniques and sort of way to.
That is very correct. This vulnerability assessment of the communities and their areas of operation has to be there. That is what you said before. Again, going through the various parts of it, then we were talking about the resilience and other things. But what are the resilient species?
So the evidence for which species are resilient.
Yeah, species we should have an evidence-based, isn't it?
Okay, so once you know, I mean that's work that IUCN is doing, is identifying the most vulnerable and the most resilient species. So once you know that, how would you then use it?
Yeah.
I'm asking you, how would you go about using that information on the most resilient species? What could you?
Means in an ecosystem there are some, just as we have what are called as the keystone species, like that some species are very much adaptable to the changing environment.
Yep.
That we should identify. I mean, in these systems, whole of the system in the presentations we have seen that it requires quite years of knowledge to get into the EVA practices.
And once you identify, you find a particular species that is very resilient.
Then
What
we have to identify.
then what do you do? Protect that.
Then we have to protect that.
Okay, so
We have
triage.
identification of the resilient species. That is more important, and how it is adapting to the changing environment. That study also has to be.
Is there a worry that you might be therefore by focusing on resilient species only? You've left. What about the opposite, like the most vulnerable species?
That also has to be done.
But for different reasons.
But the resilient species has to be given more permanence, more scientific input has to be done for their studies as compared to the vulnerable. The vulnerable definitely in space of time, it may get eroded or it may be off the land.
Okay, that's interesting. You said you had.
Yeah, I had another comment. In terms of the gaps, I think EBA requires an interdisciplinary approach. And I think there's a severe lack of teams for research institutions, universities, things like this, who can actually do this interdisciplinary analysis. Again, as an example, in this other project that I'm talking about, in Mexico, we put together a team of national experts, national, regional universities, international researchers with the ideas and others.